The Hard Count is presented by BetMGM. As you all know by now, we've teamed with BetMGM, and we're using BetMGM lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for you guys each and every week. When you join BetMGM, you get access to a variety of parlay selection features like same-game parlays, live betting options, and more. Now, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM, use code ON3, and you'll get up to $1,500 new player offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Plus, 50% off an annual subscription to the On3 College Sports Network. Here's how it works. 1, download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code ON3. 2, deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. 3, you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. And your code for 50% off an annual subscription to the On3 College Sports Network in your BetMGM inbox once your first bet is placed. Just make sure you use bonus code ON3 when you sign up. Make it one for the history books. Make it legendary. Welcome into the Hard Count presented by BetMGM. It is a Thursday, January 29th, 2026. Last one on the face of the planet. Still icy outside, but y'all, we're heating up here in the studio. Got a lot to jump into. We have a Darian Mensah breakdown for you here in a matter of moments. Going to talk about the games that we're already jacked up for here in 2026. Talk about Ohio State's schedule. Yo, this is not your Pops Ohio State schedule, all right? They gave you banger after banger after banger if you're a Buckeye fan. But, hey, Super Bowl around the corner now. If you are considering that 4.5 favoring the Seahawks and you want to get a little bit of a better payout now, last day today to get that Any Sports Odd Boost token from BetMGM. They're blessing the boys. So don't wait till Super Bowl Sunday. Today's the last day to get that Any Sport Odds Boost token and get yourself a nicer payout when inevitably your wager hits. But this is the show for college football fans that when watching the Super Bowl, all they're going to be doing is talking about, I remember when Sam Darnold was at USC. I remember when we saw X, Y, and Z player and what he was in college. That's kind of what we're here for. Love the Super Bowl. Love pro football. This is a college football show year-round, so appreciate y'all making it what it is and being dialed in, baby. So let's start with our BetMGM quarterback breakdown. Darian Mensah announcing he's taking his talents to South Beach. No LeBron James with one thing on his mind now. About to go bring a natty back to the U. You have to believe here. And when watching this watching a lot of Darian Mensah, rather, getting ready to do this breakdown, couldn't help but feel a little bit remorseful thinking about my early keyword quarterback projections for next season, our top 10. We had Darian Mensah a little bit lower than I would like to admit on this show right now because I'm going through the tape, man. I'm like, this dude just makes play after play after play. We'll have some tape breakdowns too over on my social channels, Instagram, Twitter, at JD PicKelll, just me on the laptop pointing out what I'm seeing from the guy. There's just, this dude's cool, man. Just a cool customer back there in the pocket. When I'm doing a breakdown like this, one of the things on my mental is, who does he remind me of? And you're trying to find a comparison for other quarterbacks across college football, and this is kind of bizarre. You know who Darian Mensah reminds me of? Steph Curry. There's so much sudden to his game. There's so much creative to his game. There's so much savvy to his game. But at the same time, it's not like an overly athletic player. I mean, he had negative rushing yards last year, factoring in the sacks. But just every single time you see Darian Mensah back there in the pocket, he's not overly rushed. He's not looking a little bit jittery back there. Like, he's creative, composed. But when he decides to pull the trigger, it's quick. Like, how many times you watch an NBA game and see Steph Curry shake off the screen, get open, and then before the defender can even realize what's happening, balls out, splash Gordon. Like, that's kind of what you see from Darian Mensah. Everything about his game is effortless and sudden, but again, not overly juiced up to an athletic sense. Great athlete, but not overly athletic to the point of, wow, he's going to go be Lamar Jackson, break you off for over 150 yards. There's not really that part of the game to Darian Mensah, but everything you want in a quarterback to run Shannon Dawson's offense now in Coral Gables, I believe he possesses, all right? The other part about his game that I really just enjoyed watching him play ball, if you have a coverage bust or if you're not on your P's and Q's as a defense, there's not going to be a mulligan with Darian Mensah. Like, a great example of this, end of the first half against Clemson, at Clemson now, and this is Clemson, right? Like, if you're in the ACC, Clemson wasn't Clemson this year based on their record, but it's still a roster and a defense especially that was loaded with talent. End of the half, they bring a blitz from the second level, safety over the top, flat-footed now. And Darian Mensah's like, oh, he's not in the right leverage here. I can let this ball go right away. Upfield shoulder, drop it in a bucket. Huge touchdown at the end of the half to end up being a 1-point game that Duke ended up winning at Clemson. Again, just you're not going to get any recoveries with Darian Mensah if you're not dialed in schematically. He's going to find the weak spots, and if you have a coverage bust, he's going to expose it, okay? So love that part about his game. There's also just a whole lot of big time and it factor to what he is. I mentioned the creativity he possesses when he gets out of the pocket. Sometimes you see quarterbacks in college, especially young quarterbacks. Darian Mensah is a first-year starter in that system at Duke, second-year starter overall. Sometimes you see quarterbacks that are a little bit younger. When they create without a plan, and they look a little bit sped up. They look a little bit jittery. Darian Mensah, when he breaks contain, he's doing it with a purpose. He's either going to tuck it in and run and go get what he can, or he's finding one of his guys downfield and giving them time to break open. That's a big reason why, if you're a Miami fan, you're fired up that it's Cooper Barkate there with you. Another great example, going back to the Clemson game, probably his best game of the entire season, if you ask me. Breaks contained, coverage bust, eyes downfield, sees Cooper Barkate right away, gets in the ball. It was like a 77-yard touchdown for Duke, strike up the band. Again, on the road at Clemson, stuff like that, man. The suddenness, the athleticism, but the savviness to be able to make a play when the play breaks down, just you can't say enough about that. Another example, against Illinois, rolling out, back foot, back of the end line to his receiver, Andrew Anthony, with a guy in his face. There's so much of the it factor and big time to him, to where if I'm a Miami fan, I'm like, he's doing this at Duke? And no knock on Duke, but Duke was 7-5 last year. Duke was not elite necessarily around Darian Mensah the way that I believe Miami will be elite around Darian Mensah. Now, I'm not saying Duke didn't have good players. A lot of good players. I believe they had the leading rusher, leading receiver, leading passer in the conference. Duke put up numbers. But a lot of that, in my estimation, was because of what Darian Mensah did for them. Now, if I'm going to be nitpicky here, if I want to be a little bit critical, because it's college football, nobody's perfect in this sport, there are times where I would wish he would feel that rush with a little bit more urgency. Okay, there's a couple of times where you're like, hey, pocket's collapsing, get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it. Your check down's open, get rid of it, and ends up taking a sack. I mean, he sacked 27 times last season, which is top 25 in college football. But you also have to account for the fact that, Duke threw it 37 times. So the number of sacks you're taking when you're a pass-first offense or pass-heavy offense like Duke was, those numbers are going to be a little bit skewed. If you're a Miami fan, you're saying, JD, no problem. We're going to give him more time than Duke gave him, too, which I would say, yeah, you're absolutely right. I have a hard time believing he's going to get sacked 27 times with a Mario Cristobal and Alex Mirabal brand offensive line in front of him now. So bottom line here, when you're looking at Darian Mensah, I mentioned the suddenness, I mentioned the creativity, I mentioned the just quick trigger he has when he decides to throw the football, the savviness, all those things. Bottom line, if Carson Beck is good enough to get you to a national championship, if everything around you stays equal, Darian Mensah is good enough to win you a national championship. That sounds like hyperbole. It sounds like a hot take. That's just my opinion on this, dude. If he's going to keep progressing the way that he's progressed from Tulane to Duke and now playing at Miami with more talent around him, more talent in front of him, the sky's the limit for this guy, man. The sky's the limit. You also talk about what you were last year during that playoff run. Carson Beck deserves his flowers and then some for the way that he bounced back after the tough Louisville game and the SMU game, and everyone's got an opinion on just him in general and what he was at Miami and how much they're paying him, and then he ends up pushing you into the national championship game. As much as you give him credit, you also look at the numbers and say, well, Carson's great, didn't make a mistake, but you had 2 games in that college football playoff run where we didn't ask a whole lot of you. All we were saying was don't turn the ball over, Carson. Throw for less than 200 yards, and we win 2 big games against A&M and Ohio State. Darian Mensah is going to be a guy that you can actually put the football game on in those situations. And this is not dunking on Carson Beck. This is just the reality now. Duke won the ACC last year with a 7-5 record, sure, but they won the ACC last year in large part because of Darian Mensah carrying them with how often they chose to throw the football and how much they put on his plate. You have a different level of juice within this offense with Darian Mensah pulling the trigger now. So the exciting thing about that, you got a playmaker back there, a guy with a different level of arm talent, and I cannot wait to see what he is when they get rolling here in 2026. I know we're a ways away. I know it's still 200 and some odd days, but y'all, Darian Mensah in this system with Cooper Barkake joining him from Duke, with Malachi Toney, with Mark Fletcher behind him, and that offensive line. Miami's going to be a problem here. Surprise, surprise. Miami's going to be a problem. Darian Mensah headed to Miami to do big things, but watching his game, man, there's a lot to be excited about. I think he is every bit as advertised, and the jump he could make as a year 3 starter now in college football. Cane fans should be fired up, all right? Make no mistake about it. So the transfer portal continues to churn now, but we're kind of reaching a stopping point here. Pete Nakos now, I think, keyword, I think he can now get in the range of 8 hours of sleep. Remember, we had him in the studio here on the Rivals channel, and we were picking his brain in the office over there talking about, hey, Pete, what's going on? How much have you slept? He's like, maybe 4 hours. Maybe 4 hours. So wanted to kind of do a finale segment here for what we've had going on in the transfer portal. Obviously, your boys were in Miami for the national title game, and things have been moving and shaking. But while we were away, LSU has been stacking the trenches. Lane Kiffin's doing what Lane Kiffin does. And we've already done a video on this in a more in-depth analysis of LSU's portal class. But when you just look at the big boys they acquired, man, 3 of the top 5 players in the transfer portal, LSU got 2 of those on the line of scrimmage. You got big Jordan Seaton, 6'5", 330 pounds, proven commodity on the offensive line coming over from Colorado. And then Prince Will Umanmielen, who had 9 sacks last year at Ole Miss. LSU is making those trenches nasty. Make no mistake about that. And Lane Kiffin, I love the fact that he's doing it through the portal at this level because it shows, again, I've said this many times, but I'll say it again, the football priorities in Baton Rouge are back where you expect them to be. The fact that LSU couldn't run the football last year is an absolute embarrassment to that logo, to that state. I mean, to everyone involved, like that will not be the case here going forward. And then also they're going to make your life suck when they come off the edge with Prince Will Umanmielen getting in your living room. A guy who you know now has produced at a high level within the SEC. So those 2 acquisitions for LSU, I think, are a great movie poster to the eventual movie that LSU season should be here in 2026 if Lane Kiffin is able to do what Lane Kiffin has done over the course of his career, which is reset that roster in a matter of a 15-minute period, and then they go out and do good things when the season actually rolls. All right. Now, speaking of doing good things through the portal, Miami, I mentioned Darian Mensah already in the full breakdown on him. I mean, he's a guy that's good enough to go win you a national championship. If everything else is equal around him, he is good enough to go win you a natty. Now, kind of flying under the radar, just because that get was so big for Miami and the hoopla that surrounded it with Duke suing him and reaching a settlement and all those things. Cooper Barkake now, transfer wide receiver coming with him from Duke to Miami, previously was at Harvard, which we beat Harvard my senior year, neither here nor there. This dude now, in and of itself, this would be a massive addition, even if they didn't land Darian Mensah. But the fact that you landed a dude that was top 10 in all of college football last year in receiving yards to replenish, what you're, I guess, essentially losing from last year's squad. I mean, JoJo Trader hitting the portal went to NC State. I love pairing Barkake with Toney, and then you have the quarterback to go with it. That offense is going to have a different level, I think, of explosivity to it with the vertical passing game. And then you pair that with what you already know that offense is going to be with Mark Fletcher in the backfield and Mario Cristobal being your head coach. You got the power plus finesse plus downfield passing game. It's going to be on next year in Coral Gables. They are knocking on the door of a national championship from what last year was. The way they attacked the portal on the offensive side, they're showing no mercy. Now, on the defensive side, you lose Ruben Bain. There's no way to sugarcoat that. But you go out and land Damon Wilson from Missouri, whose same thing we just said about Prince Will Umanmielen going to LSU. I think you could say about Damon Wilson, 9 sacks in a proven production kind of conference in the SEC. Like, you don't have to second-guess that production when it's coming from that conference. Like, if it was, from one of these lesser conferences, from the Big 12 or somewhere else, you say, well, we'll see what that ends up being when they, play better competition. Damon Wilson getting 9 sacks in the SEC. He's going to do a very similar version of that when he shows up in Coral Gables. So, once again, Miami will be a force in the trenches on both sides of the football, and Damon Wilson will be a big part of making up for whatever you lost with Ruben Bain going to the league. Now, Luke Farrelly, another individual. We have a full breakdown on the show with his situation transferring from Clemson to Ole Miss. Previously, he transferred from Cal to Clemson. I mentioned his name just because I think, one, it's an important story in college football right now with Dabo Swinney calling out Ole Miss to tamper with them. But, I mean, if he ends up having no issues and can be a guy that Ole Miss expects him to be when he's ended up transferring there, so dude with some pretty solid production coming over from Cal. Was a All-ACC honorable mention, a guy that if you're Pete Golding now could be a big part of why your defense doesn't have any drop-off here, going from what last year was to your first year now as the head coach. So Luke Farrelly, in a vacuum, a big portal get, but the ripple effect of the situation also pretty massive. Now, speaking of massive, offensive tackle Javen James got 2 years of eligibility transferring from Mississippi State to Alabama. I mean, this is good news if you're a Bama fan. This guy's got 21 starts under his belt already playing college football. How many times have you heard us say something like this? Hey, Alabama, we got to add some more big boys, man. Don't care if it's the O-line or the D-line. We got to add some more big bodies. You're answering that call here, and also the fact that you got a little runway of 2 years of eligibility with my guy. It's going to be big news for Keelan Russell or Austin Mack, whoever ends up being quarterback one there. And also with it being in the SEC, gives you some confidence he's not going to be overwhelmed his first year out there in Tuscaloosa. And then speaking of Mississippi State, here's a name, Jaden Rashada, transferring to Mississippi State. Now remember, he was the guy that was going to go to Florida, and there was the NIL fiasco, and he ends up going to Arizona State, and then he ends up going to Georgia, was at Sac State last year, and now going to find his way out to Stark Vegas under Jeff Lebby. Now, I like this for a number of reasons. One, iron sharpens iron. Dude was a talented player at a high school, high-profile prospect. He is going to, you would like to think, push Kamario Taylor and get the best out of him. Also now having some steady hands in that quarterback room, if you have to go to Jaden Rashada, I think that's a good thing. And then for Jaden Rashada, you're going to a QB guru in Jeff Lebby, who you would like to think now will only boost his profile and help him in his college career going forward. So a lot there to unpack. The portal, I'm not closing the door on it just yet, doing something else that's wild, but as it stands right now, think the dust has settled, think the music has stopped in the game of musical chairs, but the transfer portal, more or less with a bow on it, and we are putting it to bed. We're going to check on it here in a little bit just to make sure it's fully asleep, but the transfer portal, as it stands right now, safely tucked in. All right. Now, in the transfer portal, there's a great article over at on3.com where Pete Nakos breaks down some of his big winners from the transfer portal, and one of his big winners was the Texas Longhorns. And I think Texas, in a really major way, needed to be a winner in this transfer portal class, because look to what last year was, and it wasn't good enough, man. It wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough on the field. And some part of you now, if you're a Texas fan, you say, well, hey, if we weren't good enough on the field and the personnel wasn't good enough on the field, why didn't we hit the portal harder, Steve Sarkisian, going into the season? What's up with that? And so looking at this top 10 class that Texas has put together, I can't help but think about the portal as like a grocery store. Like, there's two different modes you go in when you go to the grocery store, right? There's one mode where it's like, hey, I just need groceries. I got nothing but Captain Crunch, Pop-Tarts, and an old cucumber in the fridge. I gotta eat here. We gotta restock the fridge. There's nothing in the fridge. That's mode one. Mode two is you got a vision, you got a plan, you got people coming over. Like, I'm about to cook now. I know what I need to get. Money is no object here for me. It's the rare occasion I'm going to Publix. Money is no object. I'm about to go get after it. Clear vision. I think Texas, with this portal approach, was a lot more in mode two. Like, just the messages they sent with how they attacked this portal. If I'm a Texas fan, I feel pretty good about. Because one of the clear messages was, hey, we got Arch Manning for one more year. We got to maximize him. We got to be in a spot here in 2026 when we line it up against Ohio State at our place. We have to know without a shadow of a doubt we have done everything in our power to get the most out of Arch Manning. Because I've said this, if Arch Manning is who you think he is, if he is going to continue from what he was those last 6 games of the 2025 season where he has 19 touchdowns, he looks like he's cracked the code mentally and he's all the way dialed in. You better have guys around him that can catch the freaking football and do something with it. Enter into the fold Cam Coleman. Landing Cam Coleman, to me, gives us the luxury as college football fans to see what Arch Manning truly can be. We're not having conversations after this year of, well, if Texas done more around him, if Texas had more weapons for him. We're not having that discussion. You now have Cam Coleman on one side, Ryan Wingle on the other side, and just as importantly, Arch should, keyword should, have a run game now. Because that was the other thing. Texas is saying, listen, we got to get back to our basics under Steve Sarkisian as an offensive play caller, just being a fudge you running the football kind of offense. Because that wasn't Texas last year. Like Sark over the course of his career, just about every single year has had a 1,000-yard rusher. the leading rusher for Texas last year, didn't crack 700 yards. Like, they got to be better on the ground, and they understand that, especially in the SEC. So what do? They say, okay, let's go shopping here, baby. Again, going back to that vision, we know what we need. We need offensive linemen. We need running backs. You go out and flip Hollywood Smothers from Alabama. You go grab Raleek Brown from Arizona State. And you also, for good measure, add 4 offensive linemen because the O-line wasn't good enough last year. And that's the most no-dust statement of this entire show. But you watch Texas, there was no commanded line of scrimmage. There was no giving Arch 3.5 Mississippis to find someone downfield. It wasn't there. And so if you want to win at the highest level, go look at the national championship. Indiana and Miami, what were they? Elite on the offensive line. So Texas now is making a push to go do that by going and adding some volume on the line of scrimmage with 4 offensive linemen. Final message that I was receiving from this Texas portal class, like, hey, we got a standard here on defense. We didn't meet it last year. I mean, Texas last year had 4 teams score 30 points or more. For good measure, Florida scored 29. So, like, to juxtapose that with what they were in 2024, I believe Texas had one time they were scored over 30 points on, to the tune of a loss. Right? So there was a very different vibe when watching Texas last year on the defensive side of the football. That was kind of the biggest takeaway for me watching Texas. Like, the numbers were fine. You know, you go look at where they rank in different stat categories. They allowed 20 points a game. They were pretty good against the run. But there was just a different temperature watching that defense. There wasn't this enforcer mentality you got watching Texas. I think they're going to bring that to the table here. A big reason why, you went out and added Rasheem Biles from Pitt, 2-time All-ACC kind of linebacker for you, like All-American candidate, 17 tackles for a loss. That's what you would like to think now for Texas. Pairing him with Colin Simmons should be a real temp changer for that defense. Should give you the more aggressive kind of feel with what they're going to be. So, I mean, if you're talking about what Texas is saying with this portal class as a whole, with all those different messages, they're telling you 9-3 wasn't good enough. And if 9-3 wasn't good enough, we have to go back to our processes. Our process with how we attacked the portal last year or didn't attack the portal last year wasn't good enough. We have to go get better ingredients. And so they did that. Because you went back to last year's portal class, and my takeaway was, hey, I feel good if Sark feels good. Because there wasn't this really aggressive approach in the transfer portal. Go out and add Emmett Mosley, the receiver from Stanford. Cool, I like it. Jack Endries from Cal, the tight end. Cool, I like it. All good. But there wasn't any like really big splashy moves. And in hindsight, now, hindsight's 2020, but there should have been. And you don't know what you don't know until you play the games. But I do think now what last year was, and Steve Sarkisian with this portal class, and Brandon Harris, the GM, with this portal class saying 9-3 isn't cool with us here at Texas. We're not here to be on the bubble and Selection Sunday and miss the college football playoff. I just get excited about the attitude from Texas as an overall building, because you really do get the sentiment that the shortcomings of last year, you'd like to think they kind of took it personal. You'd like to think they kind of tasted their own blood a little bit and got pissed off for greatness. And I mean, we've seen teams across this sport have those kind of, villain arc moments, and usually yields some pretty stellar results. Like Ohio State in 2023 going into 2024 kind of presents the best example of this. Michigan just won a natty. Michigan just beat them again over the course of that regular season. And Ohio State says, you know what, this isn't it. Go get Caleb Downs. Go get Will Howard. Go get Quinshon Judkins. You lose to Michigan again during the season, and then the light bulb switches on for them, whatever it took. Maybe it was the Michigan loss, maybe it wasn't. They get pissed off for greatness, go on a playoff run, go win the national championship. So maybe it's not quite that deep for Texas as much as like your rival fueling you to go win a national championship. But I'm looking at Texas Tech, looking at Texas A&M, 2 schools in your state, one of them being your rival, and it's like those 2 teams made the playoff, and we missed the playoff with a dude who's supposed to be now the best quarterback prospect to walk through here since what, Colt McCoy? Vince Young? And I know it's lofty praise and expectations, but like I cannot overstate what the hype was when Arch Manning committed to Texas. And you got one more year of the guy. So the fact that they were active in the portal and aggressive in the portal, I love that for Texas, and I think it says a lot of good things about the direction in Austin under Steve Sarkisian with this portal haul. So excited to see what the Longhorns do here in 2026. Cato, Texas was super active in the portal, as we've addressed now. You and I were texting back and forth when the Cam Coleman news popped, dude. I think he is the greatest potential change agent for that offense, with Sark now having a true number one guy to go to. Your overall thoughts of this portal class and just Cam Coleman in general, too, and what he means for Arch Manning.
Yeah, we said it before. Like, we talked about it. I think when you look at transfer portal players with the most potential impact, like given their impact personally, what they bring to the table and the team themselves, outside of the quarterback position, this is the biggest one I think we could potentially see last 10, 20 years. Think Randy Moss going to Marshall, but again, like that's him going almost down a level in football. I mean, Cam Coleman is that good, that special. And we unfortunately only saw it in many Auburn losses and in glimpses on SEC network games where they're in close ones with teams they were quite frankly more talented than. So I think the fact that Cam Coleman is now being put in a position to succeed on a Texas team that we saw it towards down the stretch of the season, Arch needed some help. He had guys dropping passes when he actually started to get into his groove. And I think guys like a Parker Livingstone were ones that were there early for him in the season, seemed like the only target he could get going. And then later in the season, it was kind of the reverse problem. So Cam Coleman, I think, is going to unlock a lot of this offense. We know Arch had the foot injury that he's having surgery on. So hopefully that's as minor as it sounds, as minor as they're talking about it on Inside Texas. And they can get things rolling here with him, Cam Coleman getting spring reps, Sark figuring out how to play with this new toy. And I think if they're at the peak of their powers, that's going to be a tough quarterback wide receiver duo to beat in the country. You have Julian Say and Jeremiah Smith, obviously, but like I said before, Arch can create with his legs. That's something Julian doesn't quite have to that same level. So really excited about this offense. And you have to think if these two guys hit close to what their ceiling is this year, it's going to be the best offense in the SEC, potentially pairing that with potentially having the run game back for them. Chef's kiss. And Rasheem Biles was one of the most underrated players in the portal. He did amazing things, making pick sixes at Pitt. Like, if he can change the temperature there, awesome. But I think just him on paper, what he brings to the table, potentially being able to elevate the linebacker position above what Anthony Hill had it at, who was an amazing player. Rasheem Biles last season compared to Anthony Hill's, they're very different. And I think Rasheem is going to be an excellent sideline-to-sideline player that I think could just set the tone from his play alone and what he just does, period. Not even talking about the defensive culture and the potential there to kind of ignite that side of the ball.
Yeah, you talk about QB wide receiver combos, man. Like, I think we right away put Cam Coleman, Arch Manning top three in college football on paper, right? I mean,
has to be.
Jeremiah Smith and saying more and more in Oregon, but like after those three, I think you put any order in those three and have a pretty good conversation about it. But I'm with you, man. It's gonna be fun.
Barcade Mensah.
Barcade Mensah's got. Mensah and Tony. Like
exactly.
We got some options here.
It smells like a segment we're gonna have to do down the line. It smells like something we'll have to investigate further. So. I'm glad we got to talk it out on the show, and hopefully we'll see where Cam Coleman and Arch rank amongst the other quarterback receiver duos. But I'm comfortable saying top three for sure right now in the month of January.
I'm with you, bro. Very, very segmentish. Yeah, feels very much like Sark's got to get that lick back here with this portal class, and Cam Coleman leading the charge on that. So it'll be fun, man. It'll be a lot of fun. Folks in Gainesville are expecting to have a lot of fun here when they go to games in the Swamp because Jon Sumrall is leading the charge. Hey, you thought Coach Translator was done because the season was done? No, sir. No, sir. Gators Online got a little bit of time with Jon Sumrall, and just there's a lot that he went into over like a 3-minute interview, and I want us to just break down some of his answers that he had to go from with different questions he got. One thing I want to translate together here, he was asked, and rightfully so, about how he's able to retain some of those players. You keep Jaden Bond, you keep Dallas Wilson, guys that have probably been tampered with for the better part of the last few months, even before Jon Sumrall got the job. His answer, I thought, was really telling. Go ahead and take a listen to Jon Sumrall talk about retaining some of these guys.
I really felt fortunate to be able to go sit in their houses because a lot of these guys I didn't recruit out of high school, right? And so for me to be able to get in their homes and eat a dinner with them or eat a breakfast with them or do whatever kind of felt like recruiting a high school guy all over. And I'm grateful those guys stayed. I'm grateful a lot of guys stayed. Yeah. There's a lot of guys that stayed that I think give us a shot to have an opportunity to have success.
Translation, I'm about this life, okay? I'm out here making visits with my entire family on Christmas Eve with an hour and a half at Jaden Baugh's crib. Like, if you don't think I'm about to go attacking on the recruiting trail here, you are very confused. You must not know what I'm about when it comes to how we recruit and retain talent. And also, too, when I'm speaking to just some of the guys that they were able to retain with Baugh and Wilson and Jaden Woods, he's like, listen, I don't think it's going to be a whole rebuild here, y'all. Like he mentioned that in his opening press conference, which we also translated. I don't think it's a, hey, knock it down to the studs. Do we have the players? There used to be a conversation when coaches would take a new job. I don't think that's the conversation at Florida. Being able to retain those guys obviously is another vote towards that. How often do we talk about, well, he's got to retain these guys? It's job number one. Goal number one for Jon Sumrall, keep those good players on his roster. And you said that, but there was a part of you, too, that didn't really want to get your hopes up. Because, listen, like Dallas Wilson, he was even committed to another school before flipping to Florida. Like Jaden Baugh, like I said, he's probably been tampered with for the better part of the entire college football season, much less when Billy Napier got fired. Like, these are dudes that I think it was probably an uphill battle to retain, just based on what the logic was around it. Don't know that for a fact, but I have to imagine it wasn't an easy retention. So, to put it simply here, goal number one, check the box for Jon Sumrall. He retained these guys. And so if that's the jumping off point for his tenure in Gainesville, at the very least, it's safe to say there is true buy-in to the degree of keeping guys that had options now. I promise you had options. Keeping those guys in your locker room, they're going to be a big part of whatever success you have in 2026. So, again, goal number one, complete. Jon Sumrall retaining these guys on his roster. That wasn't a leisurely activity. Promise you that. So that was him on being able to retain some of that talent. He was also asked, hey, John, why Philo from Georgia Tech? Go ahead and check out his answer.
Why Philo?
I think Buster had extreme confidence in him. As I did my homework, I think the place he was at, they didn't want him to leave. There's a lot of people there that felt like he was ready to be the starter there. And I trust our offensive coordinator to make the call. And I watched him in high school as well. He carries himself the right way. I go back to past experiences. He started Darian Mensah in my first year at Tulane, and he'd never taken a collegiate snap. Now, I got it. There's the American Conference, not the SEC, right? So they're a little bit different. But, man, if you got the right guy, sometimes I think experience can be oversold. There's a lot of guys that are experienced that aren't very good. And so I believe in what he's about because Buster, feels comfortable with him and has confidence in what he's going to be.
Translation, I trust my guys to do their job, and I trust myself to have the right guy playing quarterback. Like speaking of Darian Mensah and how he hadn't played a college game just yet before he took a snap at Tulane and ended up being what he is now and a guy that's going to go have a lot of success at Miami. Doesn't this just feel different than Billy Napier? Like how often as a Florida fan would you watch a game and be like, gosh dang it, I wish he would just take his hands off the wheel and let an offensive coordinator call the plays. I wish he would just give up a little bit more control here, be a little more laissez-faire, and maybe, just maybe, we'd be able to have some more success. Now, Jon Sumrall is not a play caller, so he's not surrendering play calling at all, but just the overall vibe of, hey, I like my offensive coordinator. I hired him for a reason. I'm not going to hold this wheel too tightly to the degree of not letting him take a quarterback he wants to take. He also, the translation within that is Aaron Philo's here because he's good enough. Like, I think Aaron Philo coming over without a ton of fanfare. He wasn't a splashy portal name. Wasn't a guy that was at the top of everyone's board when it came to these portal rankings. He's here because he's good enough. Yes, our offensive coordinator trusts him, but, like, Georgia Tech thought he was good enough to start. He's not coming to Florida because he couldn't hack it at Georgia Tech and it wasn't going to be what he thought it would be when he got there. Like, he's coming here because he's a dude now. And so all that just combined just got to make you feel good about the direction of Florida. Got to make you feel good about Jon Sumrall's Florida and the conviction he operates with. Like, I think there's a very human element, especially if you're a head coach at a place like Florida, to feel like you have to have your hands in every single pot because of what last year wasn't and because of the job that it is, to feel like you got to have just control over everything. I don't get that vibe from Jon Sumrall. I think there is a desire to have a really elite standard in place that he's going to hold everyone accountable to, Buster Faulkner included, but he's not going to second-guess his hire and second-guess the person that he hired based on the quarterback he brings in. Also, I'll say this too, Buster Faulkner, if he feels conviction about bringing in Aaron Philo, a guy he was around every single day at Georgia Tech, in the meeting room, at practice, in the way, like if he feels good about Aaron Philo to take him to Florida to get that thing started, I think Florida fans should feel pretty good too. So just a massive vote of confidence for Aaron Philo. Now, the next translation we have for you, Aaron Philo, while he may be assumed to be the guy for game one, Jon Sumrall is like, yeah, ain't nothing handed out here at the University of Florida.
I like our quarterback room. Is there maybe a known, proven starter in that room? No. Is there guys I think can help us win football games here? Yeah. Now we got a lot of work to do to figure out what that looks like and who's the starter and all that stuff. Long way from making that decision, but they'll make it for us. The quarterback competition, they decide who starts, not me, by how they practice and how they play.
Translation, nothing is going to be handed out at the University of Florida. And you pair this with what he had to say about guys having to earn the logo, you're going to have to earn the starting position to be our quarterback here. We're not going to withhold the logo from you, but say, oh, by the way, you transferred here, you're the high-profile guy relative to our portal class, and you seem to be the guy that's lined up to start. You're going to have to go take this job. And so the vibe I get from just hearing Jon Sumrall talk about the quarterback room and how it'll be a battle with him and Trammell and everyone else in that room, I just get this sentiment that if you're in the building at Florida, it's probably an uncomfortable place to be, but I mean that in a good way. Like, I go back to my time at Baylor. When I got to Baylor, it was year 3 of the Matt Rule rebuild, a year where they ended up going and playing for a Big 12 title and playing for the Sugar Bowl. The year before, though, it was made and won a bowl game. The year before, that was abysmal. Matt Rule, the way that he operates, I think they're probably cut from the same cloth with him and Jon Sumrall. I think if you're a Florida player or a Florida coach, you have a certain sense of urgency about yourself from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed at night, and especially when you're in that building in Gainesville. Like, speaking to Matt Rule's operation at Baylor, it was like, you feared Matt Rule walking around that building in a good way, player and coach. Like, you were dialed into whatever you had to do because, if you weren't on your P's and Q's or you weren't doing the right thing, you were going to be exposed for it in a big way. And so, again, I'm not saying Jon Sumrall and Matt Rule are the same person or even operate the same way, but hearing the way that Jon Sumrall talks about that quarterback room and how it's going to have to be earned, how you better go get it regardless of who you are, just reminds me a lot of how Matt Rule operated at Baylor. And I think now, speaking of the results that Matt Rule got at Baylor and the situation that Florida's in, should be encouraging. Should be encouraging. So uncomfortable in the best way when it comes to what the Gators are working with right now, with Jon Sumrall leading the charge. So it was a quick clip, a couple of different hits there. Would encourage you to go watch the whole thing over at Gators Online on their YouTube channel, but it's got to make you feel good about the direction of Jon Sumrall and his version of Florida as it stands right now. Cato, you've been a big Jon Sumrall supporter since even before he got this job, quite frankly, before we knew where he was going to be, in the role of the carousel, whether he was at Ole Miss or at Kentucky, his alma mater. Now he's going to be in Gainesville. Just your takeaways here from the very quick hitters we got from Sumrall. You were actually the one that sent me this video, so hey, check this out. Might be worth translating. Your impressions of Sumrall after just a couple translations there.
Yeah, shout out Gators Online for getting us right there. I think that even a 3-minute clip, Jon Sumrall talking, is just electric. And I saw the logo talk about guys having to earn the logo. Mostly positive reviews there, but some people on corners of Twitter found negatives in it. And I think when this guy gets on the microphone, there's winning the press conference, and there's like kind of that phrase we use for different press conferences, and it's when people do it intentionally. I feel like. I think with every press conference, though, the Florida fans are just learning more and more about how authentic and real this guy is. And I think the only thing you really have to care about this offseason between now and game day is that this guy cares too much. Like, the fact that he didn't want his guys wearing the logo and wanted them to earn it, it almost in a way tells me that he also understands how big this job is. He said at his press conference opening one, I wanted this job. Like, I'm for this job. I'm meant for this job. I want this job. He has worked at Troy. He has worked at Tulane. Those are his only stops as a head coach. And now he's at Florida, and he understands that it's a bigger brand, and he reveres that and regards that in a certain way. So I think his intensity, man, like I said before, the first time we interviewed him when he was at Troy over Zoom before the Sun Belt Championship game, I wanted him to run through a brick wall. He has that effect, man. And I've talked to a couple of Florida friends that I know closely, and they're starting to get more and more fired up the more they're just hearing him talk and hearing, quite frankly, how different he is than Billy Napier. It's just kind of a temperament thing. Billy was cool, calm, collected, and we've all had coaches like that. And when you're doing well, that works. But when you're not doing well, it doesn't. The cool, slick, kind of calm guy doesn't necessarily hit the same when you're not winning. So win, lose, or draw, this guy's going to wear his emotions and heart on the sleeve. He's going to bring that level of intensity that we've seen with plenty of former players and offensive linemen and linebackers. And he's cut from that cloth. So I'm excited to see how contagious now it gets to his team. And I'm curious to hear when his guys are talking on the podium or they get their chances with the media coming up in the offseason. Do we see some of those Sumrall sprinkles on him, if you will, and some of that same infectious energy and that same mentality?
The thing is, we talked about this off the air. If as a coach you're fake, you eventually break character.
Yeah.
There's too many cameras. Social media exists. There's too many eyeballs on you. If you're going to be fake, you're going to be found out. Jon Sumrall has been doing this for a minute. Now he's on a bigger stage at Florida. But I don't think anything about him is fake. I think who he was in that interview is going to be who he is at a different press conference after a win or a loss for Florida. I think he's the same guy all the time, and a very welcomed change of temperature in Gainesville in a very real way. So it's going to be fun, man.
You see that crew neck, though? You see that crew neck? Orange crew neck that he had on? Florida script, Jordan logo, Gator head on the side.
I like him rocking the ones, too. Bro.
Oh, man. He's doing it the right way, man. If I was a coach at a Jumpman school, I'd be like, hey, I'm going to need all the retros and all these colors. So he's getting the swag right, too. Shout out John going for the fashion belt in the SEC right now, which I think is pretty much up for grabs when you look across the SEC. Yeah. I don't think anyone's really standing out with any heat on their feet, per se, or any outfits. But he stepped for that basketball, man. That basketball game is now the new runway. Like, if you're a new head coach, or if you're coming off a championship like Kurt Signetti did 2 nights ago, fresh fade, you got to put a little sweatsuit on, say what's up to the fans, get some pictures. Like, that's the new runway for these coaches, man. Shout out the basketball halftimes and official visits for the transfer portal guys. Like, whatever you need, I think the basketball games are now a new runway for these coaches, and it's good to see Jon Sumrall, get some reps in there.
And there's a spectrum, too, of winning the basketball game. Like winning the press conference, there's like the Brian Kelly experience, which everyone was like, that's weird. And I didn't have a problem with that. It just was what it was, and it aged poorly. Then you have the Kurt Signetti, who was equally weird when he's like, we're going to beat Ohio State and Michigan. You're like, dog, this is Indiana. We won 3 games last year. And then they beat Ohio State and they beat Michigan. So here we go. But I'm with you, Cato. It's good stuff, man.
Any Florida or any other Jordan equipment staffs, if they want to send the boys anything,
come on.
You know where to find us. Just hit us up and we'll make that happen, because we are not opposed to getting any Jordan gear sent this way. That's for sure.
We'll come to you.
We'll come pick it up ourselves if we have to.
No problem. I mean, it's icy outside. We're still in the studio. I think we can't get to Gainesville or Ann Arbor or get to Westwood. We'll see.
We'll make it happen.
We'll see. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Well, you know what's not good stuff if you're looking for an easy schedule? If you're a Buckeye fan, you're like, how do we get this kind of draw here? Ohio State's schedule is out, and I understand where you're looking at the number of opponents you have to play and the number of ranked opponents you have to play in the preseason. You're like, this looks a little bit like an uphill battle here. But I think most Ohio State fans are like, hallelujah. We've been waiting for a schedule we can get fired up about from September all the way to November, because it's not always that way in Columbus over the course of the last couple of years. It is this year. Ohio State's schedule is a straight-up electric factory. Just look at the road games in and of themselves. You're at Texas. You're at Iowa. JD, it's Iowa. I know, but Iowa at the crib in Kinnick Stadium with the wave going on. Indiana being talked about being one of the best teams in college football history. They won by 5 in Kinnick Stadium, all right? Iowa at home. Iowa in general is tough, but Iowa at home, never an easy out. Oh, by the way, you're at Indiana and you're at USC. Right after you play USC, you got Oregon, okay? So just the number of just difficult games that you have on this schedule on the road is something, but the cherry on top is the fact that you got Illinois, Oregon, and then also Michigan to play in the shoe, okay? And then also I believe you're at Nebraska. So there's a lot of just tricky games, a lot of like really good opponents here, and I couldn't help but as I went through this schedule, think about previous Ohio State schedules. Like 2022 is a great example. There's been different points in time where I have had communication with the good folks over at Letterman Row. Well, not different points in time. All the time we're talking to the folks at Letterman Row. But during that season especially, would have a different conversation with our guy Spencer Holbrook, who does a phenomenal job over there, just about the different games that was going up for Ohio State and the big matchup. So I was talking to him before the Penn State game. We got off the phone, and he's like, hey, bro, we may not talk for a little bit. I was like, what do you mean? Hey, Spencer, are we having a breakup here? What's going on? He's like, no, just after this game, there's not really a game for you and I to talk about here in terms of you breaking down on the show. It's a high-profile game for like a month or so. He's like, I got at Northwestern, Indiana, when Indiana was Indiana, not Indiana right now, and at Maryland before we play Michigan. Like, you're not calling me, brother. I was like, yeah, that's a really good point. That's not the situation you're in right now. The schedule isn't just packed with good opponents. It's also rigorous. Like, there's such thing as tough schedules where you got a bunch of high-profile games, like I mentioned, at Texas, the fact that you'll play Oregon at home. Those are in of themselves like, blockbuster games. A lot of eyeballs on those games. But when you look at the way that Ohio State's schedule runs up, there's really not a take-a-beat moment anywhere on this schedule between tough games. Like, there's not a 2-week stretch where Ohio State can kick them up, lick their wounds, get the Norman Tech boots on, and kind of just chalk up the next couple weeks as a dub. I don't see that for their schedule. You play Texas, again, at Texas. Then you got Kent State. Cool, get a breather. Congratulations. Then you have Illinois and at Iowa. Like, Illinois is not going to be ranked in the preseason for a lot of folks. As long as Brett Bielema is the head coach out there, I don't think they're going to be fun to play. Then you play Maryland. Okay, even Maryland I think is going to be kind of sneaky of sorts. Probably a win for Ohio State. You should feel that way. And then you're at Indiana. Then you got a bye week. And then you're at USC. Then it's Oregon. So you see what I'm saying? There's not really this like super great spot if you're Ohio State to catch your breath across the course of your schedule. You could maybe argue Northwestern and Nebraska before Michigan is that 2-week stretch to catch your breath, and you say, great, we'll get it before the game. But even at Nebraska, I don't think is going to be a layup of all layups, knowing who Matt Rule is. Now, Ohio State, probably should feel good about winning the football game, or at least being favored to win the football game. But also remember 2 years ago, a true freshman, Dylan Raiola, rolled in there and gave him a little bit of a scare in the shoe. So you look at the way this schedule lines up and all the things they have, whether it be the number of ranked opponents, which as of right now, 6 ranked opponents in the preseason for Ohio State. If you like good football, it'll be fun to watch. The rigor of the schedule. There's just a lot to unpack when it comes to the storylines around this schedule relative to the buzz right now in Columbus. Like, I think a lot of people are leaving the 2025 season with how great the regular season was and the shortcomings in the playoff and the shortcomings in the Big Ten title game and saying, okay, Ryan Day, what's up, man? Like, we loved that national championship you gave us a year ago, but we understand what it is at Ohio State. What have you done for me lately? If you're not winning the national championship, they're not going to be happy. If you lose your first game in the college football playoff, they'll be even more unhappy. If you lose the Big Ten championship before losing that first playoff game, they're going to be very unhappy. So I don't think the temperature at Ohio State is like massively upset, but I do think there is some unhappiness, like I just alluded to. So if you're Ryan Day, you look at the schedule and you're like, okay, here we freaking go. Like, this is going to be a gauntlet of sorts. As much as that's an obstacle, it also, I think, is a massive opportunity for Ryan Day. Because if you go run through that schedule, let's say they go 12-0. Ohio State just runs the table. They go 12-0. You put your chest out a little bit if you're Ryan Day. Like, you are how do you like me now kind of mode if you're Ryan Day. Now, it only counts so much as you make the shot in the college football playoff and go win the national championship. But I do think there's almost this idea in the minds of college football fans that Ohio State's schedule year in and year out isn't that tough. You got the Michigan game, which is always tricky. Maybe there's a tough Big Ten game with a Penn State or an Oregon, maybe a non-conference game that's tricky. Like, usually it's like a 3-game season for Ohio State. That's been fair to say for the better part of the last couple of years. That's not going to be the case this year. If Ohio State navigates this with a brand new offensive coordinator, it's going to be something that you should give a lot of credit to Ryan Day for. Like, if you had second thoughts about Ryan Day as the right guy at Ohio State, I'd say, one, look at that national championship that you currently have in your trophy case in Columbus. I think that's pretty solid. But if that wasn't good enough for you, you go run the table in this regular season schedule, okay, that should answer a fair amount of questions for you. You should feel pretty good about Ryan Day as your head coach if and when you get that done. Now, in the same way, think about the college football playoff game for Ohio State and how they just didn't really look like they had the same juice you would want them to have when they lost to Miami. There's a lot of things you could pin that on. You could pin it on the time off. You could pin it on the first-year starting quarterback. You could pin it on the offensive coordinator switch. You could pin it on Ryan Day. I think some level of blame should be given to the fact that Ohio State really didn't play anybody the last, 5-6 games of the season before Michigan, the Big Ten championship game. Like, Ohio State hadn't really had to step under the heavy bar all that recently when they played in the college football playoff. And you could say it's good to get some rest and not have to rev the engine too much, and I think that's a fair way to look at it. But if it's me, I'm looking at the schedule and saying, okay, even if we go 10-2, We go 10-2 like we did in 2024, and we find our way into the playoff hosting a first-round game. I know this team's got some good scars on them, some good experience on them. That's going to serve us well when we're in one-game season mode in the college football playoff, trying to achieve the ultimate goal of winning a national title again. I think the weight they're going to have to bear over the course of this regular season, if nothing else, will prepare them better for the college football playoff. And as much as we hate to say it, that's kind of where we're at right now in college football. Like, you will never hear me say the words, the regular season doesn't matter, because that's not true. That's what college football has been built on. It is my favorite thing about college football. But if your angle as an Ohio State fan is, hey, natty or bust, this is a much better runway for natty or bust territory. Because I think looking back at last season, having to play yourself and play your own standard for the better part of the last 5 to 6 games of the year, I don't think that serves you well when you get in the ring against a Miami team that's frothing at the mouth that just beat Texas A&M, and they've been in fight or flight mode since they lost to SMU. I think that matters. So even if you don't like the fact that Ohio State has a more rigorous schedule as a fan because the path is more difficult, resistance training in college football is real. And this is going to be better resistance training for Ohio State for the national championship aspirations. And for us as college football fans, Ohio State playing some awesome logos, that's going to be awesome in and of itself. So can't wait for that. But Ohio State's schedule, not going to be easy. And if you're a Buckeye fan, I think you like it that way personally. Neither here nor there. So I told you all a couple times, man, we're sickos on this show. If you've watched the show for some time, you know we're sickos. Heck, we talk about college football every single day for a job, which is hilarious. We're 200 some odd days away from week 1 getting rolling. But as sickos, as you being a sicko as well, rather than look at the glass half empty situation, be like, oh man, football's so far away. Glass half full is saying, dude, 2026 is going to be awesome. Some of these games are going to be absolutely elite. It's like that one meme where it's the two guys sitting in the bus, and one side of the bus is dark, and the guy's looking out all frustrated and scared. The other guy on the bus is looking out the bright side of the window, and he's fired up. We're looking out the bright side of the window right now and saying 2026 has got some electrifying matchups that I'm already jacked for. I want to go through a couple right now together. LSU at Ole Miss. Do I need to say anything else? LSU at Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin's the head coach returning to Oxford. The fact that we get this game when last year LSU was at Ole Miss, and we get a repeat of that, just that, I mean, count your blessings, man. God is good all the time, and all the time God is good. College football is different than any other sport in the world because the emotional charge of it and the pettiness of it and the toxicity and venom of it is dialed up a little bit more than I think any other sport in existence. This might be the most toxic, venomous, petty, emotional, dare I say, like bad vibes game in a positive way that we're going to get this season. Y'all, I was trying to think of a game that's been more emotionally charged. I go back to like the Connor Stallions year, Michigan, Ohio State is like the first thought I have. But outside of a true rivalry game, I don't know which game you would point to. So LSU at Ole Miss, it's going to be huge for the SEC in general. But that game being in Oxford is going to be nothing short of cinematic and awesome. And if Trinidad Chambliss is playing now, okay, here we freaking go, dude. Here we absolutely go. Now, we are first team all Red River stands on this side of things. Myself and Caden Smith have been plotting for a minute, even going back to last year saying, dude, we got to find a way to get to Red River. Got to find a way to get to Red River. October 10th is going to be sick. It's really going to be go time for both teams, too. Looking at the schedule for both these teams heading into it, before the game, Texas will play Ohio State and at Tennessee. Okay, so I don't think it's crazy to think that Texas could be rolling this thing with a loss. It's not out of the realm of possibility. But then after this game, they're at LSU and at A&M. This is going to have some playoff implications for Texas if the threshold is 10-2. Same deal for Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma's at Michigan and at Georgia before they play this game. Okay, here and then after at Florida, you got Ole Miss, you got A&M. The margin for both these teams to lose this one and still make the playoff is not all that great. Okay, so you get that plus you get the final volume you would expect of John Mateer versus Arch Manning. John Mateer was coming into this game off of Chipotle Gate where he's got the thumb surgery and Dr. Shin working some magic to get him healthy. If we can get both these guys in this game with a hot hand on both sides, we might be in for an instant classic. Like, Red River in itself is already awesome and all you need to get fired up, but to have two quarterbacks at the top of their game, and when they're at the top of their game, I think they're both respectively top 10 guys in the sport, and the SEC title race of it all, like, this is going to be We got to be at this one. I'll just say that. We got to find a way to be at that one. So if you're a sponsor now, trying to get in the mix, send the boys to Red River, let's talk. We can make something happen there, all right? Notre Dame at BYU, Catholics, Mormons, LaVell Edwards Stadium, October 17th. This is going to be big because in a similar way to Red River, I don't think either side of this thing is working with a whole lot of margin to lose this game and then also feel good about making the college football playoff. Now, it could happen. Don't get it twisted. It could happen. But Notre Dame is already, in the month of January, trying to fight the allegations of, well, their schedule's not that tough. They play BYU and Miami, and everybody else is kind of an afterthought. If you lose to BYU, and let's say you happen to drop another game some way along the route, I would not want to put 10-2 Notre Dame in the hands of the committee yet again. Now, I understand, top 12 team, you still make the playoff. That's the new wrinkle to this year's playoff format, but I'm telling you now, in the eyes of the public, beating BYU at BYU I think would go a long way and also probably be a pretty good confidence booster for the boys in South Bend heading into a potential playoff run. Same thing for BYU. I mean, y'all, all BYU did last year was lose to Texas Tech twice, and that was it. And one of those was in the conference title game. I think it's not crazy to say that the nature of the Big 12 right now is if you're going to get an at-large bid, and how good Texas Tech is, that might be BYU's route here. You got to have something extra for the committee to chew on. A win over a Notre Dame team that's going to be, I think, playoff caliber would go a long way. So just the sheer margin of it for both sides of this for the college football playoff is going to be phenomenal, plus the fact that it's two elite brands playing in this one, an elite backdrop of that stadium with the mountains. I cannot wait for that. I mentioned Ohio State's got a great schedule. When Oregon comes into town, that's going to be juicy, man. Like that is going to be very juicy. It's for Oregon, it's supposed to be the year, right? Dante Moore's back. Everyone thought he was going to go be potentially a top 2 NFL draft pick. He's back. Dan Lanning now trying to break through that wall of the first Oregon coach to win a national championship. If this is the year, you go get a win at Ohio State. Now you got to make the run during the playoff as well, but if this is going to be the year for you, Oregon, you would think this is one of those games that you go and take and send a message to the rest of the country, hey, we're here. We're here, and we're not here to just make the playoff and win the Big Ten. We're here to actually go win some freaking hardware now. You would think that's the case. For Ohio State, how difficult that schedule is with at Texas, at Iowa, at Indiana, at USC, all before they play Oregon, it's not insane to say that Ohio State might be in fight or flight mode going into this game. Not predicting it, but I'm just saying right now, is it crazy to think that if Ohio State drops 2 games before Oregon, that's like not plausible? I don't think so. I cannot wait for that one as well. And then the last one here that got a lot more juicy with some portal activity the other day. Miami plays Duke November 14th. Darian Mensah versus his old team. Manny Diaz versus his old team. The head coach at Duke playing the team that, or the school rather, that fired him. There's a school that they hired his replacement at. I don't know. I just think there could be some real juice there, and also that's late enough in the year to where if you're Miami and you're thinking college football playoff and national championship appearance again, that's late enough in the year and a scrappy enough op with Manny Diaz out there to where you drop that game against Duke, maybe it does ruin your college football playoff aspirations. You don't think Manny Diaz would love so much to spoil the college football playoff potential of a team that fired him and a team that took his quarterback and star wide receiver? I promise you that would be everything that he would want and more. And I hope he says it into a microphone because that would be great for just us in general. So jacked for those games, dude. Just a quick list. We also got the LSU, Clemson, the Ohio State, Texas. There's a bunch of great games I didn't even mention, but those are the eye catchers for me as we sit here right now in January of 2026. Cato, anything that you want to add in here, whether it be a game that I didn't touch on or something else you want to add to this flow when it comes to this short lineup of games that we're already frothing at the mouth for here as it's icy outside the studio in January of 26?
Unfortunately, JD, I got way too excited for this.
Hit me.
I tried to keep it within the first 3 weeks of the season for what is catching my eye because I don't want to look too far ahead.
Sure.
You forgot to mention LSU at Ole Miss, week 3. We don't have to wait long to get that. So that's a juicy matchup. Another juicy week 3 matchup for me, Florida going to Auburn. 2 first-year head coaches who had a better offseason, who's better fit for the job. The narratives write themselves for that one. It's very rare you get to just measure yourself up in your first SEC game against the coach that just got hired. Really excited for that one. JD, week 0, we go international a couple times, and it's January, so I can get excited about this.
Yeah.
North Carolina revenge game against TCU, Aviva Stadium in Ireland. Bill Belichick, not a first ballot Hall of Famer. Okay, I got something for that. I remember last year. NC State versus Virginia in Brazil. Didn't know this was happening. I feel like this is good free game for the program people as well, because you can like impress your friends by knowing this stuff way in advance. Like, this is stuff I didn't even know. But CJ Bailey versus either Eli Holstein or Bro Pabula. Interesting quarterback battle going on in Virginia. I'm interested in January. Sign me up. Week 1, another interesting matchup. JD, we have a decision to make because there's a neutral site game in Atlanta and one in Nashville that I think we might have to pull up to. Yeah. You got Baylor versus Auburn in Atlanta. DJ Lagway's Baylor debut in Atlanta versus Byron Brown and Alex Golish. First game in Auburn. Fire me up.
Is that Saturday? I think it's a Saturday game, I'm assuming. I know it was
think,
Friday last year.
I don't have the days of the week. I think that's Saturday. I'm pretty sure that's Saturday.
I'm with you.
But Louisville and Ole Miss also play in Nissan Stadium here in Nashville that weekend. Could be Trinidad, could be Deuce Knight. We got my boy, what's the quarterback that transferred there from Ohio State to Louisville?
Not Devin Brown. Keenholz.
Lincoln Keenholz.
Yeah.
I wish I knew that before.
No,
I wish I would have got it on the head. Lincoln Keenholz, Louisville debut, though, against Ole Miss in Nashville.
A little saucy.
There's worse things to watch, right? And then Clemson at LSU. I mean, you get Lane Kiffin's LSU debut versus Dabo. Maybe some wires crossed there with some portal tampering that we'll hear about between now and then. We'll see if Dabo still has some more in his manifesto as far as some notes he's taken for tampering with his guys. Love that. And then week 2, Oklahoma at Michigan. A great rematch, obviously. You talk about physicality, though. All of a sudden you have Kyle Whittingham in the fold versus Brent Venables. You talk about just two intense guys that are all about their physicality. Love that. Tennessee at Georgia Tech.
Okay.
Alberto Mendoza versus Lord knows who for Tennessee. I'm excited. I'm excited about that. But the headliner, though, I think the number 1 overall pick, Ohio State at Texas. I think this game will be what last year's game should have. And I think the fact that both of those quarterbacks underachieved in their first start for their teams and now have a chance coming off of more confidence of the last season, their first full season as a starter. I think Julian Sayin and Arch Manning are going to deliver in that game and give us the game we thought we were going to get week 1 when we drafted our favorite games, our best games of the year, the 1-1 overall pick that didn't necessarily live up to the hype as far as a scoring perspective. I think this year that over looks a lot more intriguing on BetMGM, and both of these quarterbacks are more like themselves and more that we've seen lately. So that's to me the 1-1 pick now, not only because it's Ohio State and Texas is awesome, but I think both quarterbacks have a little bit of revenge to get and show how far they've come compared to the last game we saw them play against each other.
No more training wheels for Sayin or Arch. Remember last time we're watching it in a Miami hotel room on a laptop trying to figure out, okay, are they just like a ground and pound team now at Ohio State? Or they're trying to just take something off Julian Sayin's play? Jeremiah Smith's not really getting as involved as you would think here. The other part of this too, the fact that it's week 2, there will be a full 4-quarter game for both sides. Kind of rev the engine, work out the kinks. So by the time they play, it's like we're greased up. We're ready to rock now, boys. Arch Manning throwing missiles, Julian Sayin, alley-oop into Jeremiah Smith. It's going to be so awesome, dude.
Cam Coleman out there. Oh, Jeremiah, you're wide receiver 1, right? Yeah, it's crazy. Watch this. I think it's just we talked about it earlier in the show, man. You talk about quarterback wide receiver duos. That could be 1 and 2 right there, and we get to watch them play in week 2 against each other. The amount of how many NFL scouts will be at that game? All 32. If you're an NFL scout with a pulse, why are you not at Ohio State at Texas? You probably were already there last year. I mean, Daniel Jeremiah's got 3 Ohio State guys, 4 Ohio State guys in his top 10 right now of his just big board of players. There's gonna be plenty on the field, and plenty have gotten better since last year to that year. So. Man, it's crazy. You feel a little crazy being excited about games happening months and months and months from now, but you think about the potential matchups, think about the players in new places and what's expected of these teams, man. I'm already excited. Week 0 to week 3, give me season tickets. I'm ready to go.
To the veins. Right to the veins. To Cam Coleman, Jeremiah Smith. same recruiting cycle, 2 5-star cats. I don't know. It'll be fun. Yeah, I mean, we're sickos. We don't apologize for that at all. I have College Game Day recorded on my YouTube TV, and those recordings, I believe, are good for like 9-ish months.
That's crazy.
Played the Reese Davis monologue in the shower the other day just to get dialed up.
Just to
funny,
feel something.
Just to feel something. It's funny too, listening.
Something.
Just to hear the things that we were saying going into, last season and what was like a sure thing. Oh, Clemson, don't even worry about. They're going to be in the playoff. Don't even worry about the ACC, and then what happens. But Gator great stuff as always, man.
Charge it to the game, man. Clemson and Penn State, we won't forgive you for what you did to us last year, but 2 teams are going to get targeted this year. Now I'm starting the process of trying to figure out who the Clemson and Penn State are going to be this year. Like, hey, who am I just going to fade?
Yeah,
that on paper has no reason to fade. You got to just find some outliers here and there. So we'll see if it changes the thought process between now and the season starting.
There's going to be a lot of deep diving here on this side of things. Grab a snorkel, grab an oxygen tank, because we're going deep all off season, baby. Myself and Caden Smith chopping it up. Hey, like I said, you can look at the glass half empty side of things and say, oh, college football's so far away. You say glass half full, college football will never be further away than it is right now. Tomorrow we're close. The day after we're closer. So enjoy this show. We're going to attack this part of the year together. But again, for Cato and the 1s and 2s, myself, JD PicKelll, appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all